Picture this. I'm standing at my kitchen window, a mug of lukewarm coffee in my hand, watching the neighbor's dog chase its tail in endless, frantic circles. It's a Tuesday morning, gray and unremarkable, but there's something about the way the world hums outside, quiet, steady, almost too still, that makes me pause. I'm Emily, 29 years old, and this little suburban bubble just outside the city is my entire universe. My husband, Jason, and I have carved out a life here in our modest house with its neatly trimmed lawn and the cozy living room where we've spent countless nights curled up, half watching some crime drama while sneaking bites of each other's popcorn. We've been married for 5 years now, and if you ask me to describe our life, I'd probably say it's comfortable, predictable. The kind of routine that wraps around you like a worn-in sweater, soft, familiar, but maybe a little too snug in places. Jason's 32, a software engineer with this calm, grounded energy that's always been my anchor. I can still see him as he was in college, with that dark brown hair always a bit messy, like he'd just rolled out of bed after pulling an all-nighter, and that reassuring smile that could melt away any bad day. I fell for him hard back then, and even now, when I catch him grinning at me over breakfast, I feel that same flutter. But lately, I've noticed the edges of that smile don't quite reach his eyes. He's been quieter, more distracted, his gaze often drifting to his phone with an expression I can't read. It's not anger or sadness, just something distant. I've told myself it's just stress from work. He's been staying late at the office a lot, debugging code or wrestling with some impossible project deadline. Meanwhile, I'm at home, working as a graphic designer, hunched over my desk for hours sketching logos and tweaking layouts until my eyes burn.
Our days are a loop. Work, dinner, maybe a glass of wine before bed. We don't have kids yet, though we've tossed the idea around over late-night talks, always ending with a vague, someday.
But here's the thing. Our relationship, while loving, feels like it's been coasting on autopilot. Jason's always been the kind of husband who remembers the little things, like picking up my favorite coffee creamer without me asking, or leaving a sticky note on the fridge with a silly doodle just to make me laugh. I know he cares deeply. And yet, there's a spark missing, a quiet void I can't quite name. Over the past few weeks, I've caught these odd little comments slipping out of him, hints about wanting to shake things up or try something new. I've brushed them off, chalking it up to the grind of his job, or maybe just a passing mood. But each time he says it, there's this undercurrent, a weight to his words. It's a Saturday morning, and I'm in the kitchen, the sizzle of pancakes on the griddle filling the room with a warm, buttery hum. The smell of batter and a hint of vanilla wafts around me as I flip another golden disc onto a plate, my apron dusted with flour from an earlier mishap. Sunlight streams through the window, catching on the steam rising from the pan, and for a moment, everything feels perfectly mundane. Jason's at the table, slouched in his favorite faded gray hoodie, the one he's worn since our college days, his dark hair still damp and curling at the ends from a morning shower. He's scrolling through his phone, the glow of the screen reflecting in his hazel eyes, and I notice his coffee mug sitting untouched, the steam long gone. It's a small thing, but it nags at me. Lately, he's been leaving things half-finished, like his thoughts are somewhere else. I'm about to tease him about letting his coffee go cold when he suddenly looks up, his gaze locking onto mine with an intensity that stops me mid-motion. "Emily, I need you to do something for me today. It's important," he says, his voice low, almost urgent. My stomach does a little flip as I set the spatula down on the counter, wiping my hands on my apron. There's something in his tone that I haven't heard in a while, a sharpness that cuts through the lazy morning air. I tilt my head, waiting for him to go on, and he leans forward, elbows on the table. He tells me he's left some critical work documents at an old warehouse on the outskirts of the city, A place he's mentioned in passing as a storage spot for his company's outdated equipment. He can't go himself because of a last-minute meeting that popped up, and he needs me to drive out there, grab a specific folder from a shelf near the back, and bring it home. I blink at him, the pancake on the griddle starting to burn at the edges as I process this. The warehouse is a good 45 minutes away, out past the suburban sprawl and into the kind of nowhere that makes your GPS glitch. I've never been there, and in my mind, I'm already picturing some crumbling, abandoned building straight out of a horror flick. Rusted metal walls, broken windows, maybe a flickering light bulb if I'm lucky. Can't it wait until tomorrow? I ask, turning off the burner and sliding the slightly charred pancake onto a plate. Jason shakes his head, his expression firm but not harsh. It's urgent, Em. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't. Then, with a small, cryptic smile that doesn't quite match the seriousness in his eyes, he adds, "Besides, I want to test your courage. You're braver than you think." I let out a nervous laugh, unsure if he's messing with me or if there's something deeper behind his words. Test my courage? What's that supposed? I push open the heavy door of the warehouse, and it creaks shut behind me with a hollow, echoing thud that makes my skin prickle. The air inside hits me like a wall, stale, thick with the scent of dust and mildew clinging to the back of my throat. It's darker than I expected, the only light sneaking in through jagged cracks in the boarded-up windows, casting thin, ghostly slivers across the vast, empty space. My sneakers scuff against the cracked concrete floor, each step reverberating in the stillness, sounding louder than it should. I fumble with my phone, switching on the flashlight, and the narrow beam trembles slightly as I sweep it around. Towering shelves loom on either side of me, stacked high with forgotten crates, their wooden sides splintered and coated in a fine layer of grime. Cobwebs drape like tattered curtains in every corner, catching the light in eerie, shimmering threads. It feels like I've stepped into a tomb, a place where time stopped long ago, and I can't shake the sense that I'm not supposed to be here. My heart's thudding louder now, a steady drumbeat in my chest as I move deeper into the warehouse, searching for the shelf Jason mentioned. He said it was near the back, labeled with some faded red marker, but every row looks the same, endless, shadowy, and suffocating. I mutter to myself under my breath, trying to keep calm, my voice barely a whisper. Just grab the folder and get out, Emily. No big deal, you've got this. But the words feel hollow, swallowed up by the oppressive quiet. My flashlight beam dances across the shelves, catching on rusted metal brackets and piles of yellowed papers spilling out of broken boxes. Every creak of the building settling, every faint rustle of something I can't see, makes me jump. I'm almost at the far wall when I hear it, a faint shuffle, like footsteps somewhere behind me. My blood runs cold, and I freeze, gripping my phone so tight my knuckles ache. Slowly, I spin around, the beam of light slicing through the dark, but there's nothing there, just empty space and shadows. My breath is shallow, ragged, and I'm about to chalk it up to my imagination when I catch movement near the far wall, a shadow shifting, detaching itself from the darkness. A man steps into the dim light, tall and imposing, with sharp, angular features and dark, piercing eyes that seem to cut right through me. He's dressed in a black jacket and jeans, his posture relaxed but predatory, like he's been waiting for me. My stomach drops, and I take an instinctive step back. But before I can say a word or even think to run, he moves closer. His hand reaches out, fingers brushing against my neck, cool and deliberate, sliding upward to trace the line of my jaw. I'm paralyzed, my breath catching in my throat, every muscle locked in place. I should scream, should shove him away, but there's something in the way he touches me. A forbidden rush, a heat spreading through me that I can't name and don't want to. My mind is a storm of conflicting emotions, the raw instinct to flee, the shock of his closeness, and this unexpected, shameful thrill that makes my pulse race even faster. I hate myself for it, but I can't look away from those eyes, dark and unreadable, holding me captive. Then, from the shadows behind him, two more figures emerge, silent and deliberate. One has a jagged scar running across his cheek, the rough edge catching the faint light, while the other wears a smirk that sends a shiver down my spine, his gaze raking over me with an intensity that feels almost tangible. They close in, their presence heavy, suffocating, and I realize with a sickening jolt that I don't want to resist. My mind flashes to Jason, to our wedding day, the vows we spoke under a canopy of string lights, the promises I swore I'd keep. But the memory fades, drowned out by the adrenaline coursing through me, the pull of something dark and reckless. In this moment, I betray him, and worse, I revel in it. As the strangers melt back into the shadows of the warehouse, their footsteps fading into an eerie silence, I'm left trembling on the cold, cracked concrete floor. My breath comes in sharp, uneven gasps, and my legs feel like they might give out beneath me. The weight of what just happened crashes over me like a tidal wave, dragging me under. I'm a tangled mess of emotions. Shame burns hot in my chest for letting myself go there, for giving in to that dark pull. But there's also this lingering exhilaration, a rush I can't shake, like I've just jumped off a cliff and somehow landed on my feet. And then there's the confusion, the gnawing question of Jason's role in all this. How did he know? Why did he send me here? My mind spins, grasping for answers that aren't there, and I feel like I'm drowning in the silence that now fills the warehouse, so heavy it's almost suffocating. I pull my jacket tighter around me, the fabric rough against my skin, as if it could somehow shield me from the chaos inside. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely zip it up, my fingers fumbling with the metal tab. The air feels colder now, biting at my exposed skin, and every creak of the old building makes me flinch, half expecting those figures to reappear from the darkness. I glance around, my eyes darting to the corners where the shadows seem thicker, but there's nothing. Just the empty shelves and the faint glint of dust motes caught in the slivers of light sneaking through the boarded windows. My phone lies a few feet away, the flashlight beam still on, casting a weak glow across the floor. I stumble over to it, nearly tripping on a loose piece of debris, and snatch it up, clutching it like a lifeline. But even that small comfort doesn't steady the storm raging in my head. I hear a faint rustle behind me, and my heart leaps into my throat, but when I whip around, it's just Jason. He's standing up from a chair tucked near the far wall, a spot I hadn't even noticed in the chaos. He slips his phone into his pocket with a casual flick of his wrist, as if we've just wrapped up some boring errand, not whatever this was. He starts walking toward me, his strides slow and deliberate, his boots echoing softly against the concrete. My chest tightens as I watch him approach, trying to read his face in the dim light. At first, it's blank, a mask I can't crack, but as he gets closer, I catch it, a glint of satisfaction in those hazel eyes, a small, almost imperceptible smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. It's not the warm, reassuring smile I've known for years. It's something else, something that sends a shiver down my spine, though I can't tell if it's fear or something more dangerous. He stops a few feet away, close enough that I can smell the faint trace of his cologne, the same one he's worn since college, grounding and familiar, yet now it feels like a lie. "You did well, Emily. I knew you had it in you," he says, his voice soft, almost tender, laced with a pride that makes my stomach twist. I open my mouth to respond, but nothing comes out. I'm too stunned, too raw, my thoughts a jumbled mess. Finally, I manage to stammer, "How could you let this happen? Why were you even here?" My voice cracks on the last word, betraying the tremor I'm trying to hide. He doesn't flinch, doesn't look away. Instead, he steps closer, his hand reaching out to rest on my shoulder, the weight of it both comforting and suffocating. I want to shrug it off, to scream at him, but I'm frozen, caught in the intensity of his gaze. "This was the test," he says, his tone low, deliberate, each word sinking into me like a stone. "I wanted to see how far you'd go, how much you'd trust me. And next time, there'll be more people." My heart stumbles at that, a jolt of the drive home from the warehouse is a suffocating void, a silence so thick it feels like it's pressing down on my chest. I'm in the passenger seat, staring out the window as the city lights blur into streaks of color, my hands clenched in my lap, still trembling from what happened. Jason drives with one hand on the wheel, the other resting casually on the gear shift, his face unreadable in the dim glow of the dashboard. Not a single word passes between us, but the air is heavy with unspoken questions, with the weight of what I've done and what he orchestrated. My mind keeps replaying those moments in the warehouse, the strangers, their touches, the rush I felt, and Jason's calm, knowing gaze as he watched it all unfold. I want to scream at him, demand answers, but my throat feels locked tight, like I've swallowed all the words I need to say. When we finally pull into our driveway, the familiar sight of our house feels like a stranger's. The porch light casts a warm, deceptive glow over the front door, and the neatly trimmed hedges seem to mock the chaos inside me. I step out of the car, my legs unsteady, and follow Jason inside without looking at him. The living room greets me with its usual comfort, my sketches scattered across the coffee table, the TV remote lying untouched on the armrest, the faint hum of the refrigerator drifting in from the kitchen. But tonight, it all feels alien, like I've walked into someone else's life. I sink onto the couch, still wearing my jacket, the fabric stiff and cold against my skin. I can't bring myself to meet Jason's eyes, so I stare at the floor, tracing the worn pattern of the rug with my gaze, trying to anchor myself in something mundane. Jason moves to the kitchen, and I hear the soft clink of glass as he pulls out a bottle of red wine from the rack. The sound of liquid pouring is almost soothing, a normalcy I cling to as he returns with 2 glasses, the deep crimson catching the light. He hands one to me, and I take it without a word, the glass cold against my palm. I lift it to my lips, taking a small sip. Not because I want it, but because I need something to do with my hands, something to fill the void of this moment. The wine is bitter on my tongue, sharp, and I swallow it down, feeling it burn a path to my stomach. Jason sits beside me on the couch, closer than he usually does, his knee brushing against mine. The proximity sends a jolt through me, a mix of familiarity and unease, and I grip the glass tighter, my knuckles whitening. For a long moment, neither of us speaks. The silence stretches on, taut as a wire, until finally, Jason breaks it. "I've been planning this for months," he says, his voice steady, almost confessional, like he's unburdening himself of a secret he's carried too long. My head snaps up, my eyes locking onto his, and I see something there I've never seen before. A raw, unguarded intensity that makes my breath catch. I wanted to push us out of our comfort zone, to feel alive again. And I knew you'd feel it too. His words hit me like a punch, each one sinking deeper, unraveling everything I thought I understood about tonight, about him, about us. I sit there, frozen, the wine glass trembling slightly in my grip as the weight of his confession crashes over me. This wasn't some impulsive act, some random test of courage as he'd hinted earlier. This was deliberate, calculated. A game he'd been designing for months, with me as the unwitting player. My mind races back through the past few weeks, piecing together fragments I'd dismissed as nothing. Those odd comments about shaking things up, the distracted looks when he thought I wasn't paying attention, the way he'd linger on his phone with that unreadable expression. It all clicks into place now, a puzzle I didn't even know I was solving, and the realization leaves me reeling. Betrayal stings sharp in my chest, a bitter ache that makes me want to shove away from him, to demand how he could manipulate me. Later that night, I'm lying in bed next to Jason, staring up at the ceiling as if it holds some kind of answer to the mess swirling inside me. The room is dark, save for the faint sliver of moonlight sneaking through the blinds, painting thin ghostly lines across the walls. Jason's asleep beside me, his breathing slow and even, a steady rhythm that should be comforting, but instead feels like a stark contrast to the chaos in my head. I can feel the cool sheets against my skin, smooth and crisp, but they do nothing to ease the restlessness gnawing at me. My muscles ache faintly, a dull reminder of the tension I've carried all day, from the warehouse to the silent car ride home. I shift slightly, trying to find a position that might trick my body into relaxing, but it's no use. My mind is a relentless loop, replaying every moment of today like a movie I can't pause, the eerie stillness of that decrepit building, the strangers emerging from the shadows, the forbidden rush that coursed through me, and Jason's calm, calculated gaze as he revealed his role in it all. I turned my head just enough to glance at him, his face softened in sleep, almost innocent. It's hard to reconcile this peaceful version of him with the man who orchestrated something so unsettling, so far beyond the boundaries of the life we've built together. Who am I now, after just a few hours? Have I lost myself in that warehouse? Or did I uncover some hidden, reckless part of me I didn't even know existed? My chest tightens at the thought, a mix of guilt and something else. Something dangerously close to anticipation. I think about our marriage, how it's always been this safe, predictable space, a harbor I could always return to no matter how rough the day. But now, it feels like the ground beneath us has shifted, tilting into territory I don't recognize. Can I handle whatever comes next? Do I even want to? The questions churn in my mind, each one heavier than the last. And I realize I'm gripping the edge of the blanket so tightly, my fingers ache. I close my eyes, trying to force myself to sleep, but the darkness behind my lids only amplifies the memories. I can still feel the cold concrete under my feet, the weight of those strangers' gazes, the way my heart raced with a thrill I'm ashamed to admit I felt. And Jason's words echo, sharp and unyielding, his confession about planning this for months, his certainty that I'd feel alive again. Part of me wants to hate him for dragging me into this, for manipulating me into a game I didn't even know I was playing. But another part, quieter but insistent, wonders if he's right. If I've been sleepwalking through our life together, craving something more without even realizing it. The thought terrifies me, because if that's true, then what does it say about who I am? What does it mean for us? The night stretches on, endless and suffocating, and I lie there, caught between the man I've loved for years and the stranger I've become in a single day. Eventually, exhaustion starts to creep in, dulling the edges of my thoughts. But even as I drift toward an uneasy sleep, I know there's no escaping this. I've crossed a line, and there's no going back. The next morning, I wake to the faint clatter of dishes in the kitchen, the familiar sound pulling me out of a restless haze. I drag myself out of bed, my body heavy, like I've run a marathon in my dreams. I pull on a robe, the soft fabric a small comfort against the rawness I still feel inside, and shuffle down the hallway. Jason's already there, standing at the counter, pouring coffee into 2 mugs with a casual ease that feels almost surreal after last night. He's humming to himself, some old tune I can't quite place, and the normalcy of it all hits me like a slap. How can he act like nothing's changed? I slide into a chair at the kitchen table, my fingers automatically reaching for my phone, pretending to scroll through notifications I don't care about. The screen blurs in front of me. My mind is consumed with the realization that sometimes the hardest part is pretending everything is the same when deep down, you know it never will be. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.